warm welcome to you again. Now, Africa's economy is growing rapidly and Nigeria occupies a key place in this. It will not be out of place to say that Nigeria is a strategic market for all manner of foreign investments. Capital importation represents the total value of foreign direct and portfolio investment into Nigeria in any given period. And the latest data from the National Bureau of Statistics shows that Nigeria's capital importation in the first quarter of 2017 was estimated at $908.27 million. This represents an increase of 27.75% in relation to same quarter of 2016, where capital importation stood at $0.710 million. However, in quarter 3 of 2016, capital importation was $1.8 billion, and then there was a decline of 15% in quarter 4, where it stood at $1.548 billion. It further declined by 41.36% in quarter 1 of 2017. Now, it would interest you to know that quarter 3 of 2016 saw the highest level of capital importation for the year at $1.8 billion, while quarter 1 of 2016 witnessed the lowest level of capital importation at $0.710 million. Data also shows that in the year 2016, capital importation fell by 46.86% from $9.64 billion in 2015 to $5.12 billion. This was the lowest value since the series started in 2007. Nigeria imported the most foreign capitals from the United Kingdom in quarter 4 of 2016, followed closely by the Netherlands and the United States. Interesting figures there. But now joining me via Skype to give an expert view is a corporate finance planning and analysis professional, Sina Yilu. Sina Yilu, thank you very much for joining us.
Hi, thank you for having me on your show. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you loud and clear. Now, I'm sure you heard the figures I reeled out. Now, what do these figures reflect in the Nigerian economy? Talking about the foreign investments coming in from 2016 to 2017, what we've witnessed.
Okay, I mean, so framing is a very important thing, i.e. the point of reference that you're using to look at a data point. So FDI flows in this quarter, which is Q1 17, was about 908 million. And that's about a 28% growth, like you mentioned, from quarter 1 in 2016. But it shows a dip from quarter 4 in 2016, which is what is most important. I mean, some people think it's a point to celebrate, but it's not. If I can use an analogy, you know, there's a farmer who used to sell his output of 100 naira every month, and then a pestilence came and reduced his output to 30. You know, so in the month when he then goes back to 50, he starts to celebrate. It's not really a point it's not really an uptick in the economy. You know, if you looked at the GDP report that the NBS also just released, the GDP of Nigeria still contracted for the 5th consecutive quarter, you know, real GDP, that is. By some definitions of a depression, you know, if you have more than 12 consecutive quarters of decline, you're in a depression. So we've had 5 quarters, which is almost halfway through a depression, you know. So I don't think that it's a point of an uptick in the Nigerian economy, i.e. the flow numbers.
Indeed, looking at these numbers, I would also like to take you up on this before I go to my very next question I had in mind. Okay. What do you think of the investors' confidence at this time with all the efforts being made by the government to attract FDIs into the country?
Okay, I mean, good question. My question will be, I'm not sure what these efforts are. You know, so if you look at the breakdown of the FDI flows, you will see that, for example, shares, you know, which used to make up more than 50% of the flows into the country, maybe about 3 or 4 years ago in 2014, where we had almost $13 billion in FDI flows coming into shares alone. You know, the Nigerian Stock Exchange has experienced maybe about a 6 or 7% growth this year alone, but investors are still wary because nobody's going to take equity risk when you're not sure of what the FX policy of the government is. The Monetary Policy Committee continues to meet, but it seems like their only priority is defending the naira and continue to distort FX policies. So investors are still wary of the stock exchange and the stock market because of where foreign policy is currently. But the breakdown of the other flows show that, I mean, maybe there's an improvement depending on how you look at it. Servicing and telecoms and shares now make up about 16% each of those flows. So together they are almost half of the flows that we experienced in Q1 2017. Banking as well makes up about 14%. So a few years ago, banking used to make up just 5%. Now it makes up about 14%. We also see that there's a slight improvement in flows into production. The average for last year was something about 76 million, and we see that's increasing slightly to about 79 million in this quarter. The other key drivers of the flows are oil and gas, which makes up about 11%. We also have financing, which makes up about another 10%.
Indeed. Now, in your thoughts now, what do you think is now the main driver of this quarterly decline which we're experiencing?
I mean, primarily, we don't have any direction on what the fiscal policy of the country is currently. So we're halfway through the year and we don't have a signed budget. We also have the Monetary Policy Committee always meeting, but like I said, their primary objective is only defending the naira against the US. In a recession, you know, the ways to get out of the recession is to try and stimulate demand. With monetary policy, you can do this by lowering interest rates, you know, so that it makes it easier for people to borrow and then aggregate demand can rise. With fiscal policy, you need an expansionary fiscal policy, i.e. large spending and tax cuts. We haven't seen a budget, so we don't even know what that fiscal policy is.
You were talking about clear-cut policies and you referred to interest rates, lowering interest rates. But the Apex Bank has come out strongly to say that until there is stability in some of the policies being introduced or the new policies being introduced or proper implementation of these policies, and they see that there's stability in the economy, they can't rejig any of these rates. So what do you make of this?
Again, like I mentioned, going by the MPC decisions over the past couple of meetings, you know, it's very clear to see that the main aim of those meetings is to continue to defend the naira, i.e. keep interest rates high, continue to make all this emergency FX sales to keep the exchange rate at a point where they feel is the real value of the Nigerian naira. In my opinion, I don't think that it's taking into consideration, you know, either cohesion or coordination with the fiscal policy, because they don't even know what that is, you know, or any consideration into what is necessary to take the economy out of the recession that we currently still are in.
Indeed. I must thank you for your time, corporate finance planning and analysis professional, Sina Yilu, for your time, for your thoughts, and you know, with us on Business Nigeria.
It's always a pleasure. Thank you for having me.